Stay tuned because I know I'm going to be busting up another lie. Now, I'm going to play a video here in a moment, but this right here is an entire book, and it's in the Yale Library, EDU, called the Austin and Lawrence Account from the 1700s. It's a manuscript. It's in the Rare Books and Manuscript Library, just so you know how deep your boy be going, okay? But what is this? This is an account book of a so-called prominent man over there in the area where the Geechees are, okay? Now, I wasn't even thinking about. Okay, I did pull this up because there was a book. And there's this book right here that's a recent book trying to talk about the people of Low Country, the Geechees, which they only call Gullah in the book, by Darius. Now, Darius is a little kid, okay? He's probably a 20-year-old, 22-year-old as he wrote this book. He knows nothing about history. But in this book, he attributes the Austin and Lawrence account book, page 56 and page 60. How would I know if I didn't read his book? Page 56 and page 60 as being one of the ways that he was able to find the slaves coming in, one of the slaves of his family members. And people keep referencing this. Well, no, he was the first one I know that referenced this book. And then this morning, I was looking for information on Joseph Opala. Opala is one of the people who are more recent in coming up with these Geechee Gullah lies, okay? And I knew that at one point he said these people came from the Kisi, K-I-S-I tribe, K-I-S-S-I, from over there in Africa. And so just this morning I was like going through an old documentary that I had watched several times before. Now I'm gonna have to rewatch it again, because like when you get fresh new information, it's like when you re-watch something, you catch things you didn't catch before. And what am I saying? He starts to talk about the Austin and Lawrence account book. Now, when I was watching his video long ago, that documentary long ago, I didn't pay attention to him talking about an Austin and Lawrence book. But it took me getting to this book to even get that. And this is even more recent because they keep putting that propaganda trying to erase the history of the Geechees.
Is an historical fact. The eureka moment for me was when I found the connection between Richard Oswald, the owner of Bunce Island in the mid-18th century, and Henry Lawrence, his agent for slaves from Sierra Leone in South Carolina. When I finally discovered these indications in Lawrence papers, I virtually shouted Eureka in the library. I now had the firm link between Sierra Leone and the Gullahs. From Netkin Plantation, near Charleston, Henry Lawrence captained his rise in South Carolina society. Netkin was a centerpiece of Lawrence Holdings and was earned mainly through his business venture with Oswald. Well, the significance of the Oswald-Lawrence connection is that the slave trade connection between Sierra Leone and South Carolina had an impact on the course of American history. Both of these men, Oswald, the Englishman, the slave trader, Lawrence, the American colonist, the rice planter and slave trader, both of these men had risen to positions of international prominence and wealth through the slave trade. And when the American War of Independence came, Lawrence became an important figure in the American colonial government, he became president of the Continental Congress at one point. He was the highest-ranking American official captured by the British.
Now, we're going to get to it, but of course, they said the Henry Lawrence book, right? Now, this is the Austin and Lawrence account book, okay? Now, this is likely what he's talking about. He could be talking about something different, but I doubt it. And the reason why that's important, because that was his so-called firm link between Sierra Leone and the Geechee people down there in the Carolinas. So if this is your main firm thing, the only thing you have to show that slaves were coming in, how many does it show that came in? Well, that's why I got the book.
Oswald Paris. Oswald helped negotiate the ceasefire, which ultimately led to the Treaty of Paris. As a result of the rice trade and the Lawrence-Oswald connection,
Historians are able to establish the fact that thousands of slaves came from one small part of Africa to live in one small part of America. But the culture the slaves brought.
Now, she said, based upon this book, the Austin Lawrence account book, that they can establish that thousands came over. Does the book show thousands? Well, let's take a goddamn look. Now, I'm going to go through just page 56 and 60. I'm going to later try to find other pages because, yes, this is the account book. And it does show on this book that you have a cargo of slaves coming in from Africa somewhere here at the top, without getting too deep in it and try to take forever. Next time I'll show Negro slaves imported from Africa, right? I want to see, from the brigantine. I want to see eventually if it says Sierra Leone on here. 164 year, that's the year or something like that. But these are the names. These are the people who the purchasers, and these are men, woman, boy, child, and here's the tally marks on them. The total on this page would be less than 100 slaves. Okay, so let's go to page 60. I'm sorry, on the next page, I had to go down. There was a few more, but that's your total. That's not, I can't really tell. That's not a 1623. That's another two-digit number, another two. I think that's 84 and 45, something like that. So these are the so-called slaves that came in over on one boat. And here is page 60. Saying some of the same thing. Now, this whole book isn't filled with these. Okay, now you're going to come down and it shows the accounts. Again, one thing you'll notice too, there's no names of the slaves. So some people trying to say, I found my person's slave. They would have to find if this name is it shows as their slave owner, then it's a possibility you can just kind of make the conjecture that one of these people might be one of those, but you really can't tell. And they could have just put that these people came from Africa, and they could have came from anywhere, right? From anywhere intercontinental. But there's your totals there. So these are your main two pages. And when I was going through this before, it's 365 pages. But when I was going through this before, and I'll show you, like on the next page, it's something completely different. It's just normal accounting and talking about something else. And it's like that for many different pages. So the whole book isn't filled with it. And when I was going through this before, I had clicked on a lot of pages trying to see if I could find any more. I didn't go through all 365, but now your boy's going to go through all 365 of these and see how many slaves total did they have. If you don't show 1,000 slaves coming in this bitch, in this motherfucking book, then you're lying. And I'm going to say this, even if these were true and these slaves did come through, because the only other thing I could find in the newspaper about slaves coming over talking about some Gullah Negroes in the 1700s, this is actually 1806, I think, 2 years before they even stopped importing slaves in here, they had 418. And this was the only one that I could find that said anything like this in that area. So his account book being almost a couple hundred of them, maybe, almost matches up with this. So yeah, I'll be doing two things here again today. Now I'm looking, there's three things I got going on. I'm reading this old Latin book here from the 1500s and translating it, and it's talking about South Carolina or Chicora. And I got that because I had did history research on the area of the Geechees, and that book is mentioned here in Daltau Island, which is right here. So I found the book, I found the area that finally says Chicora and Dartha, and I found that within the book here, and I've gone back several pages and I'm starting to read the chapter. Now that's one thing I'm doing, but so I'm looking into the past along with looking into the past, while at the same time looking at and this is the past, but this is like trying to debunk the 1800 lies, while the other one is trying to uncover the 1500s and prior. So yeah, stay tuned for the documentary because it's coming really soon. I promise you. I got to do a little bit more of this research before I could it's like until I can get to the end of this rabbit hole, I can't fully make the documentary, because what if I leave something out, right? And I'm not trying to do that because these people be playing and I got to be on point.